Continuing in the Hosafos on Dafman Aleph Amid Beis. After it starts with Ois Beis. Alter Rebbe writes that after this suggestion, we'll now explain also the idea of Tzimtzum. Like it says, within you is the source of all life. That's a quote from Tillim. What does it mean within you? It's not the very essence and fabric, literally, rather in the name of Hashem. That is the essence of the sun. Like it says in Tanya in the second section, Shaychad V'Amunah in chapter 3, that this is called the source of life, that is the source of all that is aligned with Hashem, that is Tainugim. And again, as we know, quotes from the Haggah, that the idea of in the garden in Eden that comes from before, that is the level of Eden at the highest level, is the Chachma of Keser, and Atik Yom in ancient days that is drawn down from the Malchus of Adam Kadmon, and this is in Eden from before, that is from that which precedes the world. And again, the Alter Rebbe quotes other source material to substantiate this, that above, the idea of Galgalusa, the skull of Adam Kadmon, has the quality in the level of Atik of Atzilus. And this is drawn down from the Malchus of Ein Sof. And that is the idea of the name of Hashem. That is unchanged from when he created the world, that is before he expresses himself, and the creation of Adam Kadmon, that is called the Adam of Bria. And from there it is expressed to become Atik, and also the Keser of Adam Kadmon, like Malchus of Atzilus becomes the Atik of Bria. Again, the lowest level of one world becomes the higher level of the subsequent world. And this is the source of the Tainug, the alignment that is revealed in the Gan Eden Elyon of Bria. And the Malchus is the Eden relative to the Gan Eden of Bria. And this is the idea that we benefit from Nenin, from the Ray, the Ziv of the Shechina, which is, again, the Malchus of Atzilus, when it becomes then Atik, the highest level of Bria. But before it comes into Bria, we can't yet refer to it as the Shechina. Again, this is references other source material to support this idea. Similarly, the concept of the Malchus of Ein Sof becomes the Atik, the Makar of the Tanugim, relative to Adam Kadmon of Bria, and that which is expressed from it through Chachma of Adam Kadmon. Al Derech Atzilus is called the source that it draws down from the Mazel. And the level of the Malchus of Ein Sof, we're now in the top of Daf Nun Beis, the way it was subsumed in Ein Sof prior to being expressed and becoming Atik of Adam of Bria. This is what it means. Prior to it being created, there was only Hashem and his name. And this is what it means, that only his name can be appreciated. That's why it's appropriate to say that only within him, Ki Imcha, is the source of life, the source of all Tainugim. Perish, the source of Tainugim, is not like this, the Tainug, the way it is down here, which is derived from something outside of itself, like delicious food or interesting ideas. Above, by Hashem, it's not that way, because there's nothing outside of Hashem. He himself is the source of Tainug. And this is the idea of the longing of the king in his very essence. Again, Alter Rebbe quotes other source material to explain this idea, that since the Tainug is something that comes from itself, it's not from something outside of him, it is Hashem who is of his own existence, and therefore there is no comparable in Tainug in this world. And it's not comparable at all to his status. And therefore this level is far higher even than Chachma, because Chachma is the combination of the Chachma and the joy that's within the Chachma, the Tainug within the Chachma. And this Tainug that's in the Chachma is not comparable at all to the essence of Tainug, which is absolutely stripped down, Pashut B'Tachlis, as we understand that it says, with you is the source of life, the source of all the Tainugim. Similarly, with you is forgiveness, Ki Imcha Aslicha, that is draws down this level of forgiveness and waiver that comes from above, higher than a level of Chachma. And again, the Alter Rebbe cites a source material to support this. That is draws down this level of Tainug Elyon that's higher than Chachma, that is called Eden, like we say in Soy Sosis and Antika B'Chodesh and other source material as well. From whence we understand that when it says that on that day will sound the great shofar, it is that it will be the source of this revelation of a level of Atik that is higher than Adam Kadmon, and therefore it is called the great shofar. And again, other source material to support this idea, that it is the revelation of the Pnimius of Atik. Now, we can only bring down from something external. And if so, based on this, we have the idea of the Shofar Gadol. Again, what we derive from all the above, we can understand a little bit this idea that ki'imcha mekor chayim. From again, more source material, a lot of other maimarim that are quoted here and other statements and so forth, where these are further elaborated on. The explanation being that as we see in a tangible sense down here, that tainug is expressed in length and in breadth more than any of the other individual koiches. That is, in everything there is an ultimate objective that it has a joy from. In contrast to this is the idea of avoidance of pain, which is the antithesis of tainug. So this is the idea of good and bad. That tainug is called good. It is the passion that is given life to everything, as explained in the Gemara and so forth. And that is the quality of tainug is the literal life force. And that's what it says that Yaakov was given that spirit. And similarly, all of the labor of a person that he engages in his business is to have parnasa and to become wealthy, because that's where he derives his pleasure from. And one person works with his chachma because that's where he gets pleasure. And also we say there's different types of tainugim, infinite forms. This one has it from delicious food. This one has it from a delicious drink, and so forth. Then there is something that smells beautiful. Then there's all kinds of other forms. There's a joy of witticisms, of insight, of precision analysis, and even of humor, and from all different matters that a person might wish to speak about or he wants to express himself. Similarly, a person is able to discharge his worries by communicating them, which pushes away this pain and this darkness, which is the opposite of pleasure. Or he hears beautiful music, singing, or instrumental, or he sees something that is beautiful, or he has good character traits. All of these characteristics are tainugim of this world. We're on the left-hand column, on Nun Beis Amud Aleph, that have fallen down from the ultimate sense of tainug through the shviras hakelim. And these are only the sediment relative to the loftier level. Like we know that Hashem, as it says on the second day of creation, separated between the upper worlds and the lower worlds. And therefore, there is no comparable of the pleasures of this world, even 1,000 years worth of pleasures of this world, to one moment in Gan Eden, that the neshamas benefit from the Ziv HaShechina. Like our sages say, it's preferable one moment of joy in Olam Haba than all of this world. Even the world of this life of this world of 1,000 years of great pleasure and all the goodies are not comparable at all to even one moment of pleasure in Olam Haba, because it is a completely different level of pleasure that is incomparable at all than that which we have in this world. Like we see down here in this physical world, when we have the tainug of seichel, for example, it's a tainug that is completely different than the pleasure of food, or of a visual, because there is this level of tainug of so many different forms, completely independent of each other. Similarly, we understand that the pleasures of even the lower level of Gan Eden is the essential fabric that's not found in all other forms of tainug of Olam Haza. And that's why our sages say regarding Elisha that it's better to be judged in this world than in the world to come, that all the suffering of 12 months in Gehenna and is worthwhile in order that a person should be able to incorporate the tainugim of Gan Eden HaTachton. Gan Eden HaElyon is a higher level at all, and that's why there is a separating river between them that a person has to immerse in order to forget the tainug that he had in Gan Eden HaTachton to come to Gan Eden HaElyon, so he shouldn't be flustered by all that he experienced in the lower world to prevent him from experiencing in the higher world, and to the higher and higher levels. It's all in the stripped down form from Hashem's name. And this is what is alluded to when we say Selah, which is a reference to a revelation from a highest level of Atik that is embedded within the level of Bina. And the Alter Rebbe cites a number of source material to substantiate this idea, which is the source of all tainugim in this level of light and expression. And this is what it means that we we have the joy from, or the pleasure from the radiance. That is, of all of these pleasures that are invested in the ha'ara of the Tainug in Chachma and Bina, from whence we draw out in Gan Eden to some insight or revelation. And this revelation of Tainug that is drawn down from Chachma and Bina is drawn from the level of Orein Seif Baruch Hu, the level of Shema Yisparech, which is the source of all of his Tainugim, which is the essence of Tainug, not a Tainug that we have from some external pleasure, like we said before, but the level of the Orein Seif that itself is the concept of Tainug. And this is what it means, that with you is the source of all life, the source of all life of the world, like it says, to give life to all the living of this world. That is the level of Tainug that we mentioned, that the source of all this is the level that is called with you, that is Shema Yisparach. But the essence and fabric, this we cannot say at all that it's the source for the expression of life and the pleasure of the 10 spheres in the world, but this makar is the level that is with you, that is surrendered to you, that his name and is called only the or, the light of Ein Sof. And it's explained in Sefer Megala Amukais that the source of life, Makar Chaim, is the Gemashi of Or Ein Sof. That is the level of Ha'or, of the light, is the source of life for all worlds. This is what is with you. It is subservient to. It's not outside of you. It is with you, like the sun's ray that is subsumed within the light of the sun. And again, the Alter Rebbe cites other source material to support this idea. And this is what it means that you are holy and your name is holy. Ata Kadosh Shemcha Kadosh. Because we say that only Hashem's name can be grasped. His glory is on the heavens and the earth. That his name is grasped exclusively. And this is what it means that his name is holy. And only his glory, an array of his name, is expressed over the heavens and the earth, the higher Gan Eden and the lower Gan Eden. But you are Kaddish, that is, even this level of Ziv, of array and the glory, the Hoy, that cannot be sustained by the worlds. And this is what Ramesh Zukata points out in the Hagan, the Yitzhar HaChaim, in the beginning, that the Kav and the Chut are only an expression of the Or. But the essence of Hashem, the Atzmis, that even a radiance of them cannot be tolerated by the world. Kitzer, the bottom of Daf Nun Beis. In order to explain that the Tzimtzum, we first preface the idea of the pasuk Imcha Mekor Chayim. With you is the source of life, and we said that this is a reference to the name of Hashem. It is called the Makor, the source of life. That is the source of pleasures. It is called the Atik Yoimin, that is higher than Chachma, and the Chachma is called Eden, that it receives from the source of Tainugim. Like in the primordial Eden, Gan Eden Mikedem, that is the source of life, that there is nothing, it's not a pleasure that comes from some other factor. And therefore, this characteristic that we define Tainug, I mean, the English word pleasure just doesn't capture it, as we're explaining, because this is not a pleasure like from music or food. Therefore, it spreads throughout the person. This is what it means. It is Oirich Anpin. And this is the idea that it is better to be judged. It is better to be judged in this world in order to be able to have all the pleasures of Olam Haba. But this is from the Atik that is revealed only in the level of Bina, that is called Olam Haba, like the revelation of the Tainug of Seichel and Asaga. But even the level of Eden, the eye cannot see, is beyond understanding. And this is that idea that is the source of life, the source of all pleasures, which is higher than even the level of Eden. The source, Makor Chaim, is the Gamashi of Or Ein Sof. Nevertheless, it is only a Or that is called his name. It is called with him, like this, the subservience or the bittul, the non-existence of the ray of sun in the sun. And that's what we mean, that you are Kaddish and your name is Kaddish. Ois Gimel. So to explain this term of Or Ein Sof, that is comparable to a sun ray that has no change in the sun itself, it doesn't take away a part of the sun. But again, this is going to be a limited material analogy. And we understand from this that it is the light and the ray, similarly from the soul, that gives life to the person. that the life that is expressed and spread out throughout the body in the 248 limbs is not from the essence and fabric of the soul itself, that it should be the essence and fabric divided into the 248 individuated limbs. And that's not the case, like it says in Tanya chapter 51. But the chayas that is spread out in the body is only a light, and it's a life force that it comes from the essence of the soul. In the eye, that's comparable to the spreading out of heat in the house from a hot stovetop. And like the expression of light that comes from a candle that is burning, similarly, there is the expression from in the body from the Ner Hashem, the candle of Hashem, the neshama of the person. And that's why a child doesn't have so much seichel, even though his neshama is invested within him, because the expression of the neshama is minimal, because his kalim, his human capacity is minimal. So we understand also regarding the expression of ruchnius, that the light and the ray that comes from the candle or from the sun, nevertheless, the expression of the chayas from the soul, even though it is similar to the light and the sun ray, but it's not completely comparable to it, because the nefesh itself is still affected by the impact of the body, and it changes through the changes in heat and cold and so on. Unlike sunlight and the sun ray, that doesn't make any impact on the actual sun. That is because the soul itself must be enclosed within the body, and then it is expressed within the life force of the body in a characteristic called or and ziv, to give life to the body. And since it itself is invested in the body, therefore it is impacted by the occurrences of the body. But of course, Lamaila, Hashem is Kadosh, is completely detached and is not invested in the actual world and the 10 spheres. Only an expression of Hashem Ha'ara is invested. And even his sanctified name is detached. It's only again Ha'ara from his level that is expressed on the heavens and the earth. And therefore, it is more comparable to the mashal of the sunlight, which is a radiance that doesn't touch the actual ball of the sun. It is only comparable to the source. And this is what it says, Ki imcha mekor chayim, is similar to this level. And that's why I am Hashem, I do not change, as it says. And this level of the Or Ein Sof, that is appropriate to say that is the source of life, the source of tainug. And again, we translate it as pleasure, but it's not, as we said, pleasures that come from external factors like food or music. The quality of Eden Ha'elyon, that is called the origin of Chachma, irradiates within it the source of all true tainug, regarding which we say that no eye has seen it, and a river has come forth from Eden. And as we explained, the Or Ein Sof, which is the Shmoi HaGadol, is the Tzimtzum that is mentioned in the Yetzer HaChaim and explained in other places, that it begins from the light that fills that empty space that we spoke about earlier in the Maimer. And then that comes, Tzimtzum, becomes contracted, but of course it's still there, it's just restrains its expression. And therefore, this Tzimtzum does not touch the very essence and fabric of it. It is only the light that is called Shema Yisparach. So to understand a little bit this idea, from which we understand how the level of Or and Shem, of the glory and glorious, is not a change at all through the Tzimtzum. The point is that Tzimtzum is not literal. It is not that Hashem abandons the world or removes it, because, of course, there is no place that is void of him, like it says in the Medrash. Why did Hashem communicate to Moshe from a thorn bush, the sneh, to teach us that there's no place that is void of God, even a thorn bush? What then does it mean that there is a removal? That is, it is not evident, it's not revealed, it is hidden. Like we say in Pasuk Eliyahu, that it is pulled back, that it is concealed from being revealed and expressed, and it is hidden, and therefore it is considered wondrous and far away. And again, the Alter Rebbe mentions other Maimarim. We'll be able to understand this when we talk about using as an analogy a person with a hidden and revealed. For example, when a certain person is learning a certain Masechta, and he knows it thoroughly, and he knows every aspect of it, and the depth of it, and the explanation of it, and he's totally got it in his pocket. Now, when he thinks about it in some way, it becomes evident. Or when he thinks about something else, that his seichel becomes invested in some other topic, at that moment, or if he's sitting around, so to speak, doing nothing, and he's not thinking at all about that initial topic that he's so clear about, at that moment, so the seichel in that original Masechta that he knows so well is not revealed within him. It's still there, but he's not thinking about it. We wouldn't say that he doesn't know it, and as soon as it's brought to mind, or as soon as it's brought to his attention, every single detail is there. Again, he has it, quote, in his pocket. And since that's the case, it is certain that at the moment that he is not engaged within it, he still has it completely in his seichel, but it's not evident, it's not revealed, it's not clear to him, like it was at the moment that he was involved. But it's embedded within his brain physically, in his chachma. And this is the seichel the way it is, beyond being revealed in any particular format, even beyond the particular identification of it in his seichel. And that's why there's a value in learning before a scholar, even at the time that he's not engaged in Torah, because at least in his chachma and in his memory, Torah is embedded within that. Like it says, you should glorify the face of the elder. And this is the idea of Tzimtzum and the removal or the pulling back of the seichel, that it is pulled back from radiating in this level of letters of seichel and machshava. It is subsumed within its atzmis of chachma. It's not chas v'sholem lost from the source, or moved from place to place, because the chachma and the letters of seichel and the letters of thought are all in the same place. They reside in the moach shebareish. If so, the seichel of this Masechta, at the time that he is engaged in some other Masechta, that is the topic that he's perfectly fluent in, where does its fluency go when he's involved in some other topic? It's still there. It's still as it was, like the time when he's fully involved. Nevertheless, this is what it means that it's tzimtzum. That is, it is pulled back from revelation to being articulated and identified, and is subsumed within the very essence of his seichel, in a level of those oisius, where it is hidden from his machshava and his thought process. Similarly, we find with the tzimtzum and the or ein sof, from the level that is helem, that begins and radiates in the oisius, like the revelation of the seichel that is revealed in the letters of thought. And then it gets pulled back from radiating into, or expressing itself into particular letters. But it's just like it was. It is subsumed back into its origin. It does not make itself known. And again, the Alter Rebbe here points out other source material that explain this. Mashal, that the essence of the power of Chachma relative to the particulars of the application of Seichel, like when you're learning from one idea, is similar to, again, the light coming from the light source, that the essential power of Seichel is called the maskil. That is, he's in the source of thought, and the thought that is drawn out from it, the light force that comes from it, and the Seichel, the way it is revealed and invested within the letters. And when it is subsumed in the source of letters, this is a subsumption of the light in the source of light. And the letters or the particularisms become batal. But relative to the person himself, who doesn't comprehend the whole nefesh of the seichel and all of the power of seichel, only with that which is revealed, that which is subsumed in the revelation of it, in the source of the nefesh, this is hidden from him, which is not the case lamaila. The revelation that is subsumed within the source is not hidden, only relative to the recipient, but not to the source. It is transformed then from into revelation, like it says that the Shekhinah became compressed between the two carrying sticks of the ark. This is an intense revelation that is called Kodesh HaKadoshim. But still, to Hashem, it's called a Tzimtzum. We call it the most profound illustration of godliness, but to Hashem, it's a Tzimtzum. From whence we understand the teichen of the mashal that we mentioned in Tanya chapter 33 regarding the singularity of Hashem, like the subsumption of the bittul of the letters of speech and thought to the very source of the concept of thought and speech. That we use this mashal, which is the idea of the tzimtzum that subsumes this, that's nichlal, the or in the ma'or, the light in the source of light, but it becomes totally batal. And know ye that according to this, we have to understand that since the tzimtzum in the light is a revelation that comes to be once again hidden, what then is the gilui of the ziv prior to the creation of the world? that this was when it was only Hashem. So we could say, possibly, that it's shaykh to the gili of the person when he was alone. That is the speech, that is sort of the speech within his seichel. Even when he's not speaking, it's sufficient for him by himself that he sort of talks it out within his own mind. And this is not for somebody else's benefit, but even for his own. That is, he sort of works it out in his own mind. It starts to become more and more of a revelation, because the light of the seichel that's in the machshava is very subtle, and it's very amorphous, more than it was when it becomes manifest in spoken word, where it reveals the intensity of that seichel. Similarly, we understand that the revelation of light that comes before the Tzimtzum, like it is said that it is invested within the letters, that these letters are called the characteristic of Dibur, relative to the higher level of letters, which are called machshava, thought. And Tzimtzum, we're on Daf Nun Gimel, is the removal of the light from radiating in the letters of speech that is still subsumed within the machshava. Nevertheless, in truth, it's not shaykh at all to call it dibur and machshava, because even the level of Adam Kadmon, which is called the primary primordial machshava kaduma, is created after the Tzimtzum. However, to make it something somewhat understandable and that we can have at least some vision of what this means, even before Adam Kadmon is created. Also, as it's explained in the Sefer, that Tzimtzum is in the Malchus of Ein Sof, that this level of Malchus, the way it is of speech, like we say, the king speaks. And again, the Alter Rebbe quotes other source material that we can describe this sort of a person sort of talking it out in his own mind as giving clarity to it. The Kitzer, the idea that we explained about life, that the nefesh is given life from the to the body, is only an expression of it, ha'ara, but the nefesh is mamish embedded within the body. But higher at the level of Hashem, God's name of his name, that he is kadosh, and the tzimtzum is only in the expression of light. It's not chas v'shalom an actual removal, but it's only hidden. Like a person where there's that which is hidden, that which is revealed. Like a person who learns a certain concept and he knows it thoroughly, but at the moment that he's not invested in that study, it's still there, it's just compartmentalized. Similarly above, the idea of tzimtzum is not chas v'shalom that God's light is removed, but it's not revealed at that moment.